Welcome to this online service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. Our mission is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Rebecca Senaway, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. While we cannot be together in body today, we are grateful to be together in spirit as we gather in this virtual space. It's not the same thing as being together physically, but it is what we have for now, and we do hope that you will find this time comforting and sustaining. Today's sermon will be delivered by Brad Convis, a Sunnyhill member who recently participated in Reverend Magah's sermon writing class. If you're a newcomer or visitor to our congregation, welcome. Please let us know you're here by posting a comment on our live Facebook feed or by getting in touch with our membership director, Bethany Thornton, at sunnyhillmembership@gmail.com. We would love to let you know how you can connect with the congregation even during this time when our building is closed. Our opening words, titled, "To Remind Ourselves What is Real," were written by Elena Westbrook. In a world ravaged by violence, by hatred, by conflicts that seem eternal and insoluble, sometimes the only thing we can do is be still for a moment. To remind ourselves what is real: the sun that rose this morning, the dirt under our feet, the air whispering in and out of our lungs. This hour, try just to be present in each moment as it unfolds. Your simple attention is what makes these moments holy.
Please join us in saying our words for lighting our chalice.
We light this chalice,
the beacon that calls us
to love, to justice,
to a deepening of the Spirit. Please rise in body and or spirit and join us in singing our hymn, "There's a River Flowing in My Soul."
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Good morning. It is now time for our Story for All Ages,
which today is Charlotte in the Quiet Place by Deborah Sossin. It is illustrated by Sarah Woolley. Charlotte in the Quiet Place. Charlotte's house is noisy. In the hallway, the floorboards groan. In the living room, the TV bellows and blares. In the kitchen, her dog Otto yips, yaps, and yowls. Even in her bedroom, which is supposed to be a quiet place, the old steam radiator whisses and hisses and whines. Where can Charlotte find a quiet place? Charlotte's school is noisy. In the classroom, the bell clangs. In the lunchroom, the trays clatter and crash. On the playground, the swings creak, squeak, and rattle. Even in the library, which is supposed to be a quiet place, the children giggle, yammer, and yell. Where can Charlotte find a quiet place? Charlotte's neighborhood is very, very noisy. On the sidewalk, the jackhammers blast. In the street, the sirens warble and wail. Underground, the subway screeches, rumbles, and roars. Even in the park, which is supposed to be a quiet place, the leaf blower buzzes, blusters, and hums. No, cries Charlotte, I have to find a quiet place. One Saturday morning, Charlotte takes Otto for a walk. In the park, Otto spots a squirrel and he lurches free. Charlotte chases Otto, charging down the hill, over the bridge, and into a grove where Otto skids to a stop. Charlotte and Otto are out of breath. Together they sit down to rest. They close their eyes. Charlotte's belly rises up and down, up and down. Her breath goes in and out, in and out. Her mind slows down. At last, it's quiet. It is so quiet. Charlotte notices an even quieter place. A place deep in her belly, where her breath is soft and even. A place deep in her mind, where her thoughts are hushed and low. A place as quiet as the small silence on the very last page of her favorite book. The silence right after the end. When Charlotte is ready, she and Otto hike slowly away from the grove, back over the bridge and up the hill towards home. Nowadays, Charlotte's house is still noisy. Her school is still noisy. And her neighborhood is still very, very noisy. But Charlotte remembers that day in the park. So wherever she is, whenever she wants, when her world is too noisy, Charlotte simply closes her eyes and travels back to that peaceful place. That place deep in her belly, where her breath is soft and even. The place deep in her mind, where her thoughts are hushed and low. The quiet place inside. The end.
Greetings, Sunnyhill members, friends, and guests. Please stay tuned for this brief yet very important public service announcement regarding the Sunnyhill service auction, the first ever virtual service auction. Hopefully the last ever virtual service auction. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't attend. It's a historic event. It is an event you need to attend. June 27th, Saturday night. A mere 180 shopping days left till Christmas. You know what that means. A great opportunity to get that unique, one-of-a-kind gift for that hard-to-purchase person on your list. It is also an opportunity to support Sunnyhill, to keep us strong so we can continue to create a just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. Never more important than now. Together we can be Sunnyhill strong. And I hope to see you all June 27th, Saturday night. Further details will be shared via the beat and before services. Pictures of some of the items available for bidding will start to appear as well, so you can start planning ahead. We look forward to sharing this evening with you then, June 27th. Thank you.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, 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 we welcome you.
Good morning. My name is Anne McGrain, and I'm a member of the pastoral care team whose purpose it is to reach out to members of Sunnyhill going through challenging or significant life events, whatever they may be, offering the loving presence that binds our community together. If you want to get in touch with us, you may contact us directly or call the church office or send an email to pastoralcare@sunnyhill.org. Each week at this time in the service, we share joys and sorrows submitted by members of the congregation. We share the things that we are celebrating as well as the things we are mourning so that they need not be held alone. Joys and sorrows may be submitted online from our website. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." A sorrow from the Anderson Farb family. Perrin Farb had a terrible bicycle accident on Wednesday evening, which resulted in hours spent in multiple emergency rooms. She is now recovering at home with stitches, broken bones, bruises, and abrasions. The entire experience was quite traumatic. Perrin and the whole Farb family would appreciate healing and peaceful thoughts and prayers. To the Farb family, we hold you in our hearts. A joy from Jeff and Sue Mazer. Jeff and Sue just celebrated their 43rd wedding anniversary. To Jeff and Sue, we hold you in our hearts. A sorrow from Ron Smutney. I am sorry to inform the Sunnyhill community of the passing of one of our former interim pastors, Reverend David Park, on June 6th. David served Sunnyhill for 1 year in the early 2000s while I happened to be president of our board. He was a bright, witty guy who definitely marched to the beat of his own drummer. He had retired to the Boston area. To David Park's friends and family, we hold you in our hearts. Let us bear in mind all these joys and sorrows as well as those that are held too closely to be shared. Thank you.
So the other day I was talking with a friend about my spiritual journey and specifically my history with meditation. We talked about the calming and centering effect that it has on me and my life when I practice it. This got me thinking about where it all started. As a child, I would get upset about something, a fight with a friend, a test I was worried about, maybe some drama at home. I would head outside to clear my head. I learned quickly that an adrenaline-charged bike ride around the neighborhood would ease my troubled mind. When I was upset about something and needed a quick pick-me-up, I'd grab my skateboard and head for a high-speed run down the biggest hill in my neighborhood, dodging cars and pedestrians and ending up crash landing into a grassy front yard or a pile of leaves, laughing all the way. When I was feeling depressed and melancholy, I would go for a walk in the woods near our home. And after aimless wandering, chasing critters and walking the trails, I'd end up ankle deep in a creek, catching frogs and crayfish. I'd be grinning from ear to ear, completely forgetting about what it was I was so previously upset about. Enjoying Mother Nature, exploring the outdoors, and sharing the mystical qualities of our natural world were all common activities for my family. As I was growing up, we went camping at least once a month from spring until fall, and it was a common experience to share our outdoor activities with my relatives, our neighbors, and our friends. I was taught to respect nature, care for the critters that I found, and clean up any trash that I found along the way. I was fortunate to live in a neighborhood that backed up to the woods. The trails and dirt roads that I got to know very well allowed me to go on nature hikes and adventures anytime I wanted to, right from our home. Nature was always close by. Swimming is a big part of my history. I was on the neighborhood swim team in the summer and on the regional team in the winter. Swimming in lakes, rivers, and swimming holes, and occasionally getting to body surf in the ocean. These were all activities that I look forward to each spring. I felt at peace floating in the water. Again, Mother Nature had her calming and soothing effects on a troubled boy. I grew up in a very active, very family-friendly, thriving Unitarian Universalist church in Rockville, Maryland. One that reminds me a lot of what we have here at Sunnyhill. We had many opportunities to go on day trips and weekend getaways and various gatherings and get-togethers with families and small groups. I have fond memories of weekends at the Pond House and the Cliff House in Frederick, Maryland. Every year we went to the Beach House in Bethany Beach, Delaware. I was active with the youth group. With them, I was exposed to even more outdoor activities like rock climbing, canoeing, and caving. However, this all changed when I became a teenager and into my young adult years. Rather than turning to Mother Nature and church friends for companionship, I turned to fellow stoners and drinkers at school. These kids spent a lot of time hanging out under the bleachers or at the park, smoking cigarettes, sneaking joints, and drinking beer. I felt like I'd found my salvation. They accepted me, and I felt like I fit in. When I was high, I felt like I was cool for once. I was funny and more likable. I was no longer concerned about being an immature boy in this tall, lanky body. Prior to picking up drugs and alcohol, I was extremely self-conscious about everything I did. I felt like everyone was looking at that tall, dorky kid who couldn't do anything right and criticizing me, picking on me for what I said or the clothes that I wore. I was faced with normal growing pains, but didn't know how to process the feelings that I had. I was conflicted about my sexuality, and I escaped into the oblivion of drugs and alcohol to avoid the issue of whether I was gay or straight or somewhere in between. My parents broke up, then got back together, then finally divorced. And even though it was very amicable, downright friendly actually, I used this as an excuse to rebel and isolate. I turned back on the jocks and the nerds who were my friends at school, and I joined the freaks in search of mind-altering chemicals and alcohol. We were bad kids, engaging in petty crimes, theft, vandalism, bullying, other bad behavior. Sometimes I did these things to fit in, to show off, or just for the thrill of it. I no longer had very many healthy tools for living. I didn't reach out to my parents or the adults at church for guidance. My drug-induced coping mechanisms of denial, avoidance, blaming others, and hurting people I loved, these did nothing to improve my self-esteem, my outlook on life, or to reduce my anxiety. Within a short time, everything I did revolved around drugs and alcohol. My grades slid down to a C level rather than A's and B's, as had been my history. My relationships became tense at home and at church because I was making bad choices every day. I was actively screwing up a perfectly good middle-class life and rubbing it in people's face. I thought I was a good liar, and I was good at covering my tracks, but later I found out that I wasn't. The people in my life were very concerned. They knew I had become an addict, a thief, and a manipulator, always quick with an excuse or something else to blame. They were looking into long-term treatment options for me. They thought I was hopeless. For a period of about 8 years, through high school and college, I smoked marijuana all day, every day, and drank heavily most afternoons and evenings. As you might imagine, that didn't go well for me, and I became less functional and more depressed. Playing the blame game became a sport for me, always comparing myself to kids that were worse off than I was, and claiming to not be that bad. I was in denial, and my emotional maturity became stunted, even as my body continued to grow and grow, and my voice got deeper and deeper. However, denial and avoidance are definitely not effective coping mechanisms for dealing with the challenges of life and the emotional highs and lows of being a young man. I couldn't sleep. Depression became normal. I was crashing and burning. I ended up in rehab at 22 years old, miserable and suicidal. I felt like a big, strong man with a deep voice who really was just a little 12-year-old kid inside and very few effective coping skills. My life skills were centered around the use and abuse of drugs and alcohol and how to use people and situations to my personal benefit. I didn't learn healthy habits at that time, like how to be a good friend, how to be a good brother, a good son, or a good worker. I played the game in these roles just enough to get by and get something out of you. But the awful things that I did to cover up and maintain my daily habits caused me to be racked with guilt and shame. I was lying, cheating, and manipulating at an Olympic level. But between my family and my UU church, I had in fact been raised right. So my conscience was eating away at me, keeping me awake at night. My bad behavior weighed on me and caused me to feel worse and worse each day. I thought that if my family and friends only knew how much I had lied to them, stolen from them, and denied of them, well, they would hate me, and they wouldn't want to be around me anymore. Then my life would not be worth living. That sense of desperation and hopelessness turned out to be the best possible thing for this young man, because it allowed me to hit bottom at an age when many young men and women were just getting into drinking and having fun with it, gaining their independence. I was already done. I'd hit rock bottom. I asked for help, and I got it. At rehab, I was exposed to the 12-step programs and a whole new way of life. I jumped in with both feet and embraced the ideas that were presented to me. They said I needed to be completely honest, clean house, and develop my spirituality. They said that a changed man wouldn't drink again, but that the same man probably would. I didn't want to go back to that. I'd seen how miserable I was, so I went to those 12-step meetings they recommended. I worked the steps. I got honest with friends and family, as honest as I could be at the time. I tried not to screw up anymore, one day at a time. I was learning to be accountable, reliable, and trustworthy, one day at a time. I was learning to be a better man and to think of others, to be of service, and to be accountable. I grudgingly started practicing prayer and meditation as directed by my spiritual mentors. However, this is where my anti-Christian stubbornness started to impede my progress. I was so judgmental about the awful things that I was seeing in the news about little kids being victimized and other hypocrisies that it caused me to reject all religious practices. I was grateful to be a Unitarian and not one of these other religions that were concealing or excusing bad behavior. But I mistakenly thought that in order to pray, I had to subscribe to one of these religions and follow their rituals. I dug in my spiritual heels. We had not practiced any kind of meditation or prayer, and we did not really have what I would call a God consciousness in my family. There were no familiar prayers or meditation practices that I remember being exposed to in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Rockville, Maryland. I didn't have any old rituals to fall back in like some of my friends in recovery. But I did the minimum prayers my 12-step friends recommended, just to try it, just in case it might work. Every morning I prayed, "Please help me stay clean and sober today." And at the end of the day, I said to that same higher power, "Thank you. Thank you for keeping me sober today." I developed the habit of daily prayer, talking to whom or what I did not know, but it seemed to help a lot. I felt relief. And by some miracle, the compulsion to drink and use drugs on a daily basis was lifted. I no longer had the intense cravings and obsessive thoughts. That experience spurred me on to try more of this spiritual stuff. More daily prayer and spiritual readings relieved me of the thoughts of suicide, helped my self-esteem, and my general outlook on life. The next significant phase of my growth was when I was encouraged to try meditation at a retreat. What a great experience that was. I felt calm, serene, and blissfully relaxed during the event, and afterward, I felt more focused, more clear-headed. I was hooked. The next 12-step conference, or men's retreat, revealed more opportunities to practice meditation in small groups. And I also learned how to be comfortable meditating alone, sitting quietly and reflecting on a reading, listening to soothing music, or just enjoying the birds chirping and the sounds of nature. I had a chance to practice walking meditations, group guided meditations, both with a leader and without. I tried chanting, silent meditations, listening to Celtic music, and I meditated in all kinds of crazy places, including the top of a mountain, inside a cave, and one of my personal favorites, sitting in a beautiful spring house, listening to the constant trickling of cold, fresh spring water bubbling out of the mountain. So I researched meditation, and I was overwhelmed with suggestions from faraway places and different cultures that I had trouble identifying with. I looked at the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism for guidance. The one about respect the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Well, that certainly rang true with my understanding. Then I dug down into the UU's 6 sources that are kind of the backbone of those principles. I identified most closely with number 6, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. I also learned about the tree of life and its universal story of life and death, the yin and the yang, the continuous cycle of life, all appealed to me. Over the years, I grew up, finally. I became more comfortable with me, just being me. Yeah, I'm tall. I'm gay. I love my family. I love my church. I'm into cycling, swimming, the outdoors. I learned to be a good worker, respectful of others, well-organized, and a good problem solver. I'm okay in my own skin now. Now, how do I maintain this great feeling? I sought out opportunities to join group-guided meditations and go on retreats. I learned that I really love them, and especially the people that were drawn to these kinds of activities. They became special friends because we shared a curiosity about spirituality, an open-mindedness, a yearning for feeling more connected with those we love, a real gratitude for our lives. But I can't always time my need for solace and rejuvenation with a scheduled group event. So I had to start thinking about ways to make this practice more portable. I was looking for meditation to go. Meditation light, you might say. A friend of mine suggested that he had identified something he called his spiritual center, and another friend called it her happy place. It was some place that they could go to in their head, anytime, anywhere. So I thought about that, talked about it with others, and what the idea of a spiritual center means to them. I learned that just as I had learned to develop my own understanding of my higher power and develop my spiritual practices, I could also identify what my spiritual center was. So what is my spiritual center, you might ask? What is my true north, my favorite place to get my spiritual batteries charged? Well, it changes. But for most of my life, it's been nature-based and usually centered around my family's property in Western Maryland. We call it the cabin. When I am at that special place is when I feel the most connected to my higher power. I feel right with the world, and I feel the most calm and serene. Sometimes as I drive up the lane, I can actually feel my blood pressure go down. My heart rate and breath become more steady and smooth. When I'm in this happy place, I find that I'm most able to see the good in me, and I see more of the good in others. I am more patient, able to listen and learn without jumping to conclusions or prejudging people and situations. Life is really good when I'm in tune with my higher power, aligned with the flow of life, or just out there enjoying Mother Nature. My darkest times were when I was caught up in city life and travel, away from natural things, away from the natural centering that I have found I truly need. I finally came to the realization that I was the most self-centered, self-destructive, materialistic, and ego-driven when I was the furthest away from my daily spiritual meditative practices. I may have been sober during those times, but I wasn't very likable. I was a terrible employee, an ungrateful son, a lousy brother, and not much of a friend. Unfortunately, though, I can't always run off to the cabin and sit by the stream and let the nature sounds, the sights and smells ripple through me and flow over me, soothing my agitated mind or mending my broken heart. I can't always make it to church on Sunday or get to a meditation meeting to get my spirituality reboosted. But with the help of spiritual mentors that have influenced my life over the years, I learned that I can go there when I take a few moments to quietly meditate. Wherever I am, even on a crowded plane or a noisy waiting room, I can go to the cabin, stroll on down to the beach, open the doors to church, or visit another peaceful, restful place that makes me smile inside. My family and I call it getting our cabin head. I can visualize the land, the stream, the pine trees, and I can go there in my mind when I meditate. This practice allows me to connect with my higher power and to disconnect from the materialistic and self-centered behavior that is so terribly toxic for me. So now my spiritual center, my cabin head, is portable. I've learned that I can take that spirit of connectedness wherever I go. No matter what's happening around me, no matter how I'm feeling, I can close my eyes and go to the cabin. Would you like to join me? Next, I'd like to share with you a guided meditation. First off, I learned that there's no wrong way to meditate. So get comfortable and cast off any concern you have about doing it perfectly. I'm going to go through what's called a body scan, and I'll ask you to try to pay attention to your breathing. Take a full breath. Then let it out. Breathe in good thoughts. Health, happiness, family, friends. Start at your head. Relax your facial muscles. You may want to rotate your head. Let go of any tension you're feeling in your neck, shoulders. Again, breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe out the bad, stress, tension, and worry. If you hear noises or distractions, just let them be and come back to your breathing. In and out. Now let your attention travel down your back, soothing your tired muscles, relaxing you, warming your back, your hips, and your buttocks. Take a full breath. Let it out. Breathe in the things that make you smile. Breathe out negative thoughts. Now try to focus your attention on your feet and your hands. You might want to wiggle them around a little. Let the warm, soothing feeling of the love and the community of this church come down through you, flowing through you, from your head, down through your back, through your arms and legs, out to your feet and your hands. Breathe. Just be.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
We will now give and receive our morning offering. We don't have a designated beneficiary for today's offering, so any non-pledge income will go toward our general operating budget. But we will continue to have special offerings in the weeks to come as we identify and try to help meet pressing needs in the larger community. If you'd like to make a donation via our online giving system, you can do so one of two ways. You can go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving, and then follow the instructions. Once you get to the drop-down menu, just choose either 2020 Pledge if you're paying on a pledge, or non-pledge collections if you're not. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130 if, for example, you're texting a gift toward your pledge. Dial 412-324-3130, enter $amount followed by the word pledge. Or if you're giving toward our general fund, enter $amount followed by the word general. You can also mail a check the old-fashioned way, and you can find our mailing address on our website, sunnyhill.org. Thank you for your generosity.
Saying the words to extinguish our chalice.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth.
The warmth of community or the fire of commitment.
These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words were written by Kendall Gibbons. There is, finally, only one thing required of us. That is to take life whole, the sunlight and the shadows together, to live the life that is given us with courage and humor and truth. We have such a little moment out of the vastness of time for all our wondering and loving. Therefore, let there be no half-heartedness. Rather, let the soul be ardent in its pain, in its yearning, in its praise. Then shall peace enfold our days, and glory shall not fade from our lives. Go in peace and stay in peace.